Hello everyone, welcome back to Road to Super Bowl. We are entering episode 22 and today we are here with LA Chargers. I feel like when you can see on this picture, they entered a new era that looks bright. And how did that happen? What contributed to that and what's their future looking like? Let's find out, shall we? And we start with the draft, as usually we do. And they had a big draft. We start with Joey Alt, and when we talk about big draft, let's talk about the big man, right? Joey Alt was can't miss prospect. You know, like sometimes you miss on those. Like a couple of years ago, Giants and Evan Neal could tell you something about that. But this always felt like just to absolutely freaking right fit for Harbaugh and LA Chargers, for Greg Roman, for what they want to do. I mean, come on. Like, I would say, like some of the fans were disappointed because they have not picked Malik Neighbors, aka their future superstar wide receiver here, and they went with Joe Alt, and were like, who is, Justin Herbert going to throw the ball to? Well, it turns out that when you are protected, you can do with even worse receivers. Surprise, surprise. And you can also run the damn ball. Was Joe Alt perfect? Some people, even like mid-season, were like, oh, he's already top 3 right tackles in the league. No, he isn't. This was not like the perfect rookie season. They were better performances in the past, but you are absolutely freaking happy from what you've seen from Joe Alt, and like as early as I would say midpoint of next week, we definitely should talk about him within top 5 conversation of right tackles, and very, very soon after that, I do expect him to attack that top 3. It's going to be hard to go over Penei Sewell and Lane Johnson as those absolutely insane right tackles, but Joe Alt definitely can belong in this group in the future. But when the fans were unhappy about them not picking a wide receiver, they did it in round 2. They even jump and like to get their guy. And I must say, I whiffed on this one. First of all, Laird McConkey should have not been just a good backup to begin with. His floor was higher than that, so I whiffed even on his ranking like that. But boy, oh boy, this was fun. Like, the dude absolutely looked insane. There was he is just a slot guy type of nonsense with him after the season is over. Definitely as good as rookie, as Brian Thomas, as Malik Neighbors. Like, perhaps, yeah, I don't know, like, what you can really say about him that would, like, detract you from really the highest of highest praises. Like, really insane rookie season, clearly emerging as great number 1 for this offense for Justin Herbert. Like, the type of catch and run that he had against the Texans, it was like they were like third and forever. They were like super behind in the game, and it was like Justin Herbert throwing a prayer somewhere where Laird McConkey could be. There was 2 or 3 defenders on him, and he was like, and he catched it, stayed on his feet, kept his balance, and went for a touchdown. This was like a total highlight play, but even without that play, he would still be ranked like this. He was insane. And Chargers, with this first, like, if you did not draft anyone beside these 2 guys, like, you've earned premier right tackle for next 4 years after 2024, and premier wide receiver for next 3 on cheap deals. But the good news did not end there. Unfortunately, there is one bad news on this whole draft process, and that was Junior Colson. Whilst his numbers look atrocious, and he, like, for what should have been like a seamless transition, because obviously he was playing under Harbaugh even at college, so it was like such a clear pick that Chargers were going to make, and I'm like surprised that nobody was like, well, we draft Junior Colson ahead of you unless you jump us and give us some picks, because it was clear that they want this guy because he will fit the system. And year one, you might be, well, he sucked. You can say that, but then you can look at objective thinking behind this. Like, he was playing hurt. He was like injured throughout pretty much whole season. So whilst his tape was discouraging, I feel like you are not worried about this pick. So, like, is it a little bit of a stain of what with Vlad McConkey and Joe Alt would have been like a perfect draft in terms of year one contribution? Yes, it is. But in terms of future, I don't think you should worry too much about Junior Colson. And your good fortune and my bad take on some of the picks that you've made as Chargers did not end there, because Tarhip still, like, full disclosure, I thought like this guy could go undrafted. He didn't, and they knew freaking why, because what an emergence he was. Like, he stepped in, like, was he playing week one? Let me check on this one. No, he entered, yeah, as I thought, like, it took a couple of weeks before he, like, needed to step in the team. And pretty much ever since he did, he just did not look back. And he was like, yeah, this is me. I'm here. I am able to play slot, but I feel better outside. He played like 3-to-1 in terms of snaps. And, like, is he already number one corner? No, but can you, like, put him as your number one? And, like, with him obviously being young, first year in the NFL, and can you trust him to become that? From what I would say like a year ago, I would say hell no. Now it just might be freaking possible. And as of right now, he would be one of the better number twos for a lot of teams out there. So what a year for Tarhip still, what a pick for Chargers. And, you know, unless things go really, really sideways with him, you found yourself a starting corner for 3 years in 5th round, and perhaps for years to come, because he just might be one of your cornerstones for the future. And, you know, it did not end there. Luckily, here on Cam Hart, that was my guy. That was the guy that I was like, why is this guy drafted behind Tarhip? I feel like he's better. He was not better, he won, but it didn't mean that he was disappointing by any stretch of imagination. He was very solid for a rookie corner. I feel like, is he like super starter? No. That's why he only has like a decent starter next to him, and I would still say like he just about reached that level. But as your, I would say, swing corner guy that can step in if you need him to, you can do much worse than Cam Ward. And can you really like flip a coin and go like, okay, let's start with these two guys that are primary white corners? I mean, given how they played in their first year compared to their draft pedigree, I would say you can make that work. Will they? Is it too risky? Probably not. They will probably not do that. And is it too risky? It could really be, especially like in division with Pat Mahomes. But Cam Hart definitely, like, if he doesn't improve at all, and he is like this for the rest of his rookie contract, you found an incredible value still, and there should be like an improvement in him. It's not like he is like the oldest. Like, he was not the youngest prospect. He is already 24, but you can even like see that when he plays. I would say like he. To me, when you see him play, you wouldn't think that he's like a first year corner. Like, you would not think of him as a rookie. Like, he looks much more like a veteran, much more like a leader. Like, is his body capable of like playing at an elite level? I don't think so. I think he is probably going to be like topped out as a good starter at best. I don't really see the traits for him to be like much better than that. But even if that's so, or even if he stays a decent starter on my grades, what a freaking find. Behind that, Kimani Vidal, I felt like there was always like a nice dart throw. But with Gus Edwards, with J.K. Dobbins, they want to go with more experienced runners, and Kimani's without time should come later in his contract. So was he discouraging from what we've seen? I think like he looked solid, nothing really special, nothing that stood out, nothing that would make them say, Kimani, you are our starter next year. I feel like he's going to be entering his second year as backup at best. Like as if he is their second running back, that's really like good praise for Kimani Vidal. But like really nothing that you are just like they've thrown this pick away. Like I have wrong round here. He was sixth rounder. I left him with Cam Hart's number. Sorry for that, Kimani. So he was a sixth rounder. For that, you've got solid player, it seems like. Justin Eboigui, Brandon Rice, Cornelius Johnson did not necessarily suit up that much. Did they like Brandon Rice had 3 snaps, Justin Eboigui had 26 snaps, and Cornelius Johnson had 0. So really not saying much about them. Like the only one towards which it's like slightly discouraging is Justin Eboigui, because he was 23 when they drafted him, so not like this super young prospect. I didn't really like this pick, but I feel like he could be someone that we see much more year 2, because it was always like this room is totally full with Joey Bosa, with Khalil Mack, and with Tui Polotu. So whilst you might be okay, they didn't really get anything out of him year 1, he's older, I don't think you should be like super worried if they like. It was never a plan for him to be like a huge contributor year 1, at least in my opinion. So with that being said, what a freaking draft. Like, you probably find yourself a starting corner for years to come. You find yourself like a swing corner or potential starter. Find yourself a franchise right tackle and an alpha wide receiver for your offense. And, you still have Junior Colson, Kimani Vidal, Justin Eboigui, who like year 1, not really anything, but nothing says that it cannot change, especially for Junior Colson. I would say it would. With that being said, let's shift towards how this roster performed overall. And we start with Justin Herbert. And it's disappointing that I could not move Justin Herbert towards an elite starters category, because I think for most of the year, he played like one. And to really put it into perspective, like this was a year where there were some concerns that Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh just would not mesh. Like Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman definitely need, like, the expectation of how this marriage would go was it might struggle. Like Justin Herbert might not be buying into like you are going to throw ball less, like 10 less times a game that you are used to. We are not going to entrust the whole game plan in your hands. We are going to be run heavy offense. It's like when you are great quarterback, like you might feel like, well, we are losing and I only threw ball 20 times. So what are we doing? Like, is it really working? What do you want to do? So this was not necessarily something that was like super clear that it would work. But it was clear that Justin Herbert bought in, was absolutely okay with the situation, pushed the ball down the field when needed, made plays when needed, and was like, okay, it's actually fun that I don't have to be hero every single play. Especially, I would say, like, first couple of weeks, it was still a little bit bumpy, but then probably like week 5 onwards, he looked really good. But then the playoff game and their game against CJ Stroud, against Houston Texans, and what a shit show by Justin Herbert. Like, these things matters. He is 0-2 in his playoff appearances. Like, I would say first time it was not really on him, but this time it really freaking was. Like, not to put like everything on PFF plate, but till week 7 because like he played 5 games, he missed one. So it's like till week 7, but still it's his 5 games. His best PFF grade was 62.9. So really, it was really bumpy from the start. It had recipe for disaster. Like this is not going to match. And like, what are you going to do? Are you going to trade Justin Herbert? Are you going to like push Jim Harbaugh to try to do things differently, or Greg Roman? It had recipe for disaster. But pretty much from that point forward, his grade was 1 time below 70, 2 times below 75, and he had 3 performances over 90s, which is like elite territory. You don't find many of these. And 2 that were 89.9 and 89.7. So, like I say, it's not all about PFF grades by any stretch of imagination, right? But when you play like this based on their metrics, like those are freaking amazing games. So out of his like 17, 18 starts this year, he had 5 starts that were in this category of like truly spectacular performances. And then Houston game happened, and in that game, like his grade was 60.3, and I would say probably even like kind of unfairly high, because I feel like the play to Rod McConkey really shifts this up, like really turns it up a notch, because like without that play, let me check on that, because like his stats with and without that play are very, very different. Let me check. So with that play, his stats are 14 from 32 for 242 yards, 43% completion, 1 touchdown to 4 interception, right? That's with the Rod McConkey 93 yards touchdown. Without that, he would be 13 out of 31 for 150, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. It was historically bad. Like, I don't want to laugh at Justin. Like, I really, really like Justin Herbert. Like, he's one of my favorite players that don't play for Seattle or never played. Like, outside of Seattle family or like players that ever played for Seattle, he would be like top 10 of guys that I really, really like and I really root for. But it was just a shit show. And when this happens at the biggest stage, obviously, like the first time he was in the playoffs, it was the infamous losing from unlosable situation. And like I would say at that point, it was not really on Justin Herbert. This time, it really freaking wasn't Justin Herbert. So with that, you really cannot go out there with Lamar, with Joe, with Patrick, and with Josh. I know you might say, well, Lamar also has stinkers. I would say overall, Lamar is a better QB. So I can forgive him a little bit of those stinkers in playoffs. And he's getting better in those. Like, it's not, at least this year he was definitely very, very solid in the playoffs. So, Justin, I'm sorry, I cannot move you towards early starter. I still feel like you are 5th to 7 or 8 best QBs out there. Just like to me, first 4, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes in no particular order. And then his second group, to which I would say it's Matthew Stafford, it's Jaden Daniels, it's Justin Herbert, and it's Jalen Hurts. So this to me are top 8 QBs out there. I feel like my 9 would probably be CJ Stroud at this point of time. Like to me, these groups are like above each other and slightly above the rest. So Justin is definitely part of that. But it's kind of unfortunate because it felt like he really wasn't the one that was stepping enough to enter that elite category. And he just cannot with what he showed against Texans. Now, let's talk about this running back room. And it was not really like anything special. They brought 2 guys from the Ravens, obviously, with Jim's brother, John Harbaugh, being very familiar. And they were like kind of done with those guys, especially with Derrick Henry in town. And both of these guys like really struggling with injuries. I feel like when they are playing, they are still good, but they still have those injury issues, and neither of them is at this point of time on the roster, which to me it came as a surprise because, as you will see on my roster predictions, I did have them keeping Gus Edwards in the room, because I felt like he was still cheap for what he is. But I'm not going to cheat you. Like the fact that I'm trying to do this pre-free agency. No, I'm not trying. Like I'm doing this pre-free agency in terms of how I'm predicting the rosters. Unfortunately, my schedule did not allow me to do the whole series before free agency. I think I will manage to do it next season. So whilst I will be slightly directing to some of the news here, I will not be changing my prediction, so you can still like kind of fairly compare whether I was right or wrong on predicting some of the moves. So I was surprised by that. In terms of their performance in 2024, say given the way they want to do it with the Chargers, it was not something special, but, and we will come to that later, it's like they have great tackles, but in terms of interior, it's really not like an amazing group to run behind. So it was all about installing it, but now it's time to perfect it, and neither of these guys in J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are going to be part of that. GMaty Vidal, he will. The question is his role. I don't think he even solidified himself as clear number 2. We will see how they approach this. In terms of wide receivers, we already talked about that. What a freaking revelation it was. And, you know, year prior, Quentin Johnston, frustrating wide receiver because you can see so many good things, but he cannot catch the damn football in a lot of frustrating moments. So, you know, compare him to Ladd McConkey, who had, like, he has what? 24, 33, like on 30 more targets. He only was not able to come down with the ball on 33 cases. Compare that to Quentin Johnston, who has not come down with the ball in 38 cases on 30 less targets. So, you know, clearly the hands are a huge difference. And like obviously Quentin receives some different targets, but still, if Quentin was able to like really not drop the balls as much as he does and fight for them better, I think he has tools to be really good number 2. But the fact that I move him to good starter category, just as Joshua Palmer is there, like they are both in really bottom of those categories, not necessarily guys that you want as your number 2s, because there are some good starters that, you know, with potential and kind of like almost there in terms of important starter. That's where, you know, some of the grading system being not on like 61, 62 on this type of scale, but with the ranks in terms of like bigger groups, there is some like slight deficiencies in that. I would still say like both, like all these 3 guys are like on the lower tiers of their grades. So as great as this might look like, it's not as good as that. You know, on average, you would like nick at least 1 down from where they are graded. But overall, like from one of the worst groups, least trusted groups out there preseason, I feel like a lot of people would say that in terms of wide receivers, there is like just very small amount, if any, groups that are less equipped to help their wide receiver, their quarterback to do what he needs to do. I mean, right now, you don't see this group as a problem. Like, and what a nice find. What they like change in terms of they let go Mike Williams, they let go Keenan Allen, and they said like, who is going to fill those shoes with Quentin Johnston like really being piss poor year 1? Suddenly, I don't think you're necessarily asking those questions. Like, you want to see growth from Quentin Johnston in terms of like, can we really trust this guy? Because, you know, some of his drops are in those situations when it hurts the most. So it's like it will stuck in your memory much more if you are Chargers fan. But other than that, now it's obviously a question whether they will bring Joshua Palmer back, because he is a free agent and he's not going to be like super cheap. His estimated market value based on Spotrac is around 5 million. I would say that his play deserves better than that. I feel like if you get him for 5 million, that's a freaking steal. So to me, he's much more of like at least 7 to 8 million type of wide receiver. Like his former third rounder, like he never had like super bad season. Like I'm not saying that he is like super good, but for your wide receiver 3, you find not that many better options that he is. Like, well, I feel like in his case, it's much more of a perception, because with Quentin Johnston really being very poor year 1, and Ladd McConkey being this like promising rookie, but not necessarily a certified starter from at the start of the season, or like probably certified starter because they didn't really have too much options. But Joshua was viewed as like the best player out of this group, and the guy that really in his contract year could absolutely use super volume of targets, really steal his offense around and make it, well, you should be paying me because I'm your number 1. And Joshua did not do that. Does it mean that he's useless player? Does it mean that he doesn't deserve like very solid money? Hell no. Like I feel like this is much more of a perception that Ladd McConkey just went from here to here. Quentin definitely like arrived in a way, so he might not be like super needed for the Chargers, though I would still try to bring him back if he's reasonably, 7-8 million. I would bring back Joshua Palmer for sure. But it's much more about like, in my eyes, it's much more of the perception about him rather than him not being very, very good wide receiver 3 for a lot of teams. So with that being said, these are the wide receivers. Now shifting towards tight ends. They brought back one of my guys from Seattle, Will Disley. I had always had like a soft spot for Will Disley. He feels like a player that, like how to say it, like because of like not a huge draft pedigree, because of like he is like never been projected to be like super great tight end. You won't see him like making a lot of highlight plays. You won't see him on top of like newspapers. But he's just a very solid, solid tight end that, for what they were able to sign him, I feel like it's frankly still 3 million for 3 years, 14 million, like for a tight end, 2 in ideal cases. But if he's your 1 and you have good wide receivers, you can live with that. He played very solid for the Chargers, and I'm super happy for him, man. Like I really like me some Will Disley. Is he potential superstar? Probably not, but am I leaving too low on him with like just a decent starter? I feel like he's definitely in the upper echelons towards that. So for example, when I like always talk about grades not necessarily being perfect, like Will Disley and Joshua Palmer are like super close in my ratings, despite like they being one tier apart. So maybe I will shift towards numbers, but I feel like grades are slightly more easy to quantify for some of you guys, like when you make tier makers and etc. So I probably will stick with this, but you can let me know whether you would appreciate more of a numbers like attitude towards this. I feel like numbers, it can really be like, then you can start to compare it to Madden, which like to me it's like super not efficient, because I mean I like Madden, but let's say it's a game designed to be players sell. So, like for a lot of players, I mean their numbers in terms of Madden rankings are like absolutely insane compared to how I would rank them in an actual game. So that's why when I thought about like doing grades or numbers, I kind of avoided the numbers, partially because, well, I will say a guy is 72 and you will be like, oh, but his Madden rating is 80. But I'm like, I didn't want to have these conversations too much. So that's just me. You can leave me a comment if you would prefer numbers. And if a lot of you guys will, I might consider it. Next to him, Hayden Hurst, veteran signing that did not really attune for anything. They also had Tucker Fisk, played around 200 snaps. Like funky, I would say funky player. Undrafted guy from 2022, played something for Falcons, played here for Chargers. Like, he was not bad, but like I said, my cap is 250 snaps, and he didn't make it. I know why I did Hayden Hurst. Well, here I am like how to say it. He's much more of a known name and guy that they probably expected him to contribute much more than he did. So that's why he is even in this list. So from the perspective of tight ends, and there is not a surprise that they are being mocked a tight end in pretty much every mock draft I've seen in the first round. They don't necessarily have a super great one, and I feel like even Will Disley would benefit if they were able to bring Colston Loveland in here. Again, Michigan connection. It feels like such a clear pick, though a lot of analysts, as I am watching this draft process, have Colston Loveland as a surprising top 15 pick. Some really have them even as a top 10, which is kind of crazy, but we will see where this goes. Tyler Warren going as high as, I think, number 5 even. I've seen him to Jacksonville in some mock drafts. Those two guys are really picking up a lot of heat in terms of their stock rises. So from what felt like a month ago, where Colston Loveland towards the Chargers was yeah, they probably can keep carrying weight and take him. Now it's far from certainty. Let's shift towards offensive line, and it's really a story, tale of two situations. The outside, the tackle situations is freaking amazing. Rashawn Slater, I think he, to me, established himself as an elite player. There is really not much I can say about him not being that. He had slight dip last year in terms of his performance, but this year he was one of the 3 best performing tackles out there. That's where some people were saying Joe Alt is better. I was like, guys, I know Joe Alt, I know you love him, but please just be just be reasonable here. Can Joe Alt be as good as Rashawn Slater? Absolutely, but Rashawn Slater is freaking amazing. He what this guy cannot do. Show me, tell me. On the other side, you have Joe Alt, and like I said, I'm a huge fan of Joe Alt. I'm super happy that his year one was top 20% of what could have been. It's definitely very tough to be a tackle in the league, but he absolutely made it happen, and almost flawless transition. It was not the top of the top, creme de la creme of rookie tackle performances. For example, Rashawn Slater was I think Rashawn Slater year one looked better than Joe Alt year one. I don't think that's controversial to say, but let's end this sentence and let's end this segment. You are freaking stoked about having these two guys as your future tackles. Is Rashawn Slater signed already for his years to come? No. They obviously picked up his 50 option where he's going to be playing under 19 million, but I mean, they should get a deal done rather sooner than later, because his market could go really freaking insane. He might be the highest paid tackle ever when he signs his contract. Do this only 26. That's crazy. Then you have Trey Pipkins, and with Trey Pipkins, a lot of people, why they necessarily did not want Joe Alt was well, we have Trey Pipkins, we have reasonable tackle, and I would say that's the truth, but Joe Alt is much more than a reasonable tackle, and Trey Pipkins, they tried to slide him inside to play a guard, and was it pretty? No. Can you do worse in terms of your guard? I feel like there are 10 starting guards that are going to be worse than Trey Pipkins, so I would not call it a disaster. I've never understand people calling for Trey Pipkins to be cut, because you would only save 7 millions on that. He's playing under cap hit of 9 millions, only 6 actually. So I would say 9 millions for Trey Pipkins in today's market. That's a solid price. While he's definitely bottom tier starting guards out there, what he does for you, you can definitely draft a guy, and let him sit behind Trey Pipkins. If he looks great, great, put him instead of Pipkins. And with Pipkins, you have guard, tackle, versatility. If Joe Alt goes down, if Rashawn Slater goes down, you have such a huge versatile piece that for the money you are paying him, you should be freaking happy that you have Trey Pipkins. Like, I'm not saying he's great. I'm not saying he's your long-term answer for a guard, but for how much you're paying him, compared to how good he is or how like solid he is, I would really even say like he's a value from the point of that he really gives you this versatility and he allows you to like draft the guard. I feel like you definitely will do so in like second or third round this year, but you don't have to rush him. Like, you know, you can in any time you can go with him and you can put the Pipkins on the bench, use him in some sort of really heavy packages, or just be out there and see if someone goes down, we can use Trey Pipkins. So, dude, don't talk to me about like Trey Pipkins should be cut. Like, absolutely freaking no. Like, this guy is good enough to be 6th offensive lineman, and in this situation, even a starting guard behind him, you would have your pick from this draft to develop. Well, unfortunately, Zion Johnson in his year 3, another first round commitment towards this group, which like, I mean, Trey Pipkins was in the first round, am I not mistaken on this, right? Trey, where are you, Trey? No, he was a third round, but beside him, it's like Zion Johnson, first round, Rashawn Slater, first round, Joey Alt, first round. So they are heavily investing in this group, and like a lot of teams not suddenly, but they kind of understand you have to build through the trenches, and protecting a guy that you are paying 50 million plus a year probably is not a bad idea. Unfortunately for them, Zion Johnson is just not making the steps that you would like for him to do. He's not bad. He's like definitely starter, and if you would ask me if like his 5th-year option is around like 30 millions right now, I would probably pick it up. I don't think this, even if he stayed like he is right now, I feel like that's not an egregious overpay, but you still hope that he can slightly develop more. And for that, it's a solid option. He is not the oldest prospect. Like, he was drafted age 22, so he's only 25 right now. He was better than he was last year, where he like, it really felt like he might be benchable, like kind of similar to second year of Broderick Jones from the Steelers, that he like year 2 was really discouraging. From Zion, it was the same, but he managed to turn it around and really like put himself in like positive direction. Is it the steep progress that you would hope? Is he much better than he looked year 1? No and no, but he is a solid starting right guard, left guard, and a player that they, I think, will pick up a 5th-year optional. Bradley Boseman, their starting center, like, he was not like a super huge problem, but definitely a guy that you want to upgrade upon. And Jamari Salyer, for a 6th rounder, like, he carved himself up like a solid backup career. Kind of unfortunately for the Chargers, he's playing much more as not a backup. Like, year 1, it was good. Like, he looked like a potential steal. Year 2 and 3 definitely shows much more that he is just a backup, which still for a 6th rounder, that's great. But you don't want him to play too often, and you especially don't want him to play in the playoffs. That was, like, we can talk about Justin Herbert a lot in terms of his performance against Houston, but let's say that especially the interior of their offensive line and even Joe Alt, they did not make it easy on Justin Herbert. So with that being said, this offense was always going to be like a lot of new pieces, huge change in terms of mentality, and they were able to carve themselves up as a very, very solid offense. I feel like they found several pieces they are happy to move forward with. Some of their guys got better, some of them did not progress as much as they would like to. I feel like they are feeling really good about like 60% of their offensive personnel, and they have money and draft capital to bring the rest. So I would say very successful year one for what they are trying to do with this offense. Now let's shift towards defense, and we start with the edge group. And what a year for Khalil Mack! Like, this dude, when he was traded to Chicago, it was a huge thing for the Chicago that never worked out. Like, he was still really good with them, but he never really felt down there as a premium edge. Like, thing like one, but not in this category of DJ Watt, Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, etc., etc. And then they brought him here towards Chargers, and I think like he's here for, was it his second or third season? Let me check on this one. Khalil, where are you, my man? I think it was his second year with the Chargers. No, it was his third. And like first year, we were like, okay, he's still like definitely playable, but he's far from what he was at his top. And a lot of people, absolutely including me, felt like, yeah, he's probably going to play some more years, but he's going to be a good number two before he declines even more and he becomes more of a name than a player. But last 2 years, I mean, dude just turned it back on. Like, last year he had 18 sacks. This year it was only 9, but he missed some games. But like, I would not say that he was playing worse this season than he did last year. Like, he was still such a freaking nuisance for any offensive line. He was insane. And that we talk in he's 44. One thing that you can really use as a knock, and as potentially, like, I moved him towards an elite starter category. He had really freaking impressive start. Like, towards week 9, I feel like he was on defensive player of the year trajectory. He was not necessarily talked about in that conversation, but he was playing like one. Like, look at his first half of the season. He was freaking insane. In second part of the year, he was still really good, but he had some stinkers where he didn't look great. He obviously got injured against Tennessee, missed one game. He felt slightly slower after that. Still insane player, but if you go with like the last of his games, like his last 10 games, he doesn't look like an elite starter. But I would say overall, when you look at his season and last year, he's not going anywhere, and he was playing insane. So to me, absolutely justifiable elite starter. And I will reveal how Khalil Mack ends up, because he was hinting on retirement. I would be like, oh my god, that would be such a shame for the Chargers. But obviously I would understand, like, this was his 11th season, so like his body is worn out, and he obviously made enough money that he absolutely doesn't need to play for money. But it would be such a shame if a guy at his quality end up like hang 6 feet, because 2 years ago, if you ask me, do I expect Khalil Mack to be playing 2025? I would be like, probably not. Right now, I'd be just super sad if he's not playing. Good news for you Chargers fans and for everyone out there. As I'm recording this, the free agency, like legal tampering period, has started, and Khalil Mack has signed a new contract with the Chargers, and that contract is like a bargain, in my opinion. 1 year, 18 million, it's a freaking bargain. They absolutely wanted him back. Kyle clearly wanted to be back with Los Angeles. He likes it there. I think he's a pretty fucking bargain for what they are paying him. Obviously, with his age, with not necessarily the cleanest injury record, that's definitely in that contract. But boy, oh boy, it's going to be fun to see Khalil Mack back in. As you will see on the roster charts, I did not predict that. I thought he is done from what he said. Like, I really felt like the retirement was likelier option than him resigning here. But for Chargers and for me personally, like, I'm super happy that he's back. But let's go towards how the other guys perform. And unfortunately, with Joey Bosa, I feel like I don't want to say it's over for him because I feel like if he finds a right team that will use him like similarly to how Bills use Von Miller, so really just give him 10 to 15 snaps a game, like make sure that this guy can survive the whole season healthy, really lower the pressure on his body, and just make sure that he's available for the most important situations. I think he can be very valuable in this situation. But as a guy to play full game, I don't think his body is equipped to do that anymore. And unfortunately, when he's out there, the tools that the injuries, severe injuries, had made on his bodies are pretty clear. Does it mean he's a bad player? I don't think so. Hell no. I feel like he's still like lower tier of important starters, and as your two in specifics into like you really need to find like a good situation for him, which like they released him for from the Chargers, which made sense, and he's going to be my right takes later when I was predicting that he was going to be released. But I mean, actually here was a good fit for him, and it's not without the chance that they will bring him back. It was always about the cap situation because his releasing created 25 millions in terms of free cap, so he's not worth that. Like he was on like how much was he in like that cap? Like his cap hit was around like 35 million, something like that. Yeah, so they've cleared 25 millions, but they're still carrying that cap of 11 million. So he was about to be 36 million cap hit, and that was like, yeah, that doesn't make sense, right? So there is a chance that they could bring him back, and I really feel like they would be a perfect fit for him because, well, LA, that weather should like be better in theory for your body, and I feel like they have two guys that are absolutely ready to step up as your number one and two in Khalil Mack and Tuli Tuipulotu, who's just kind of they drafted him and then they brought Khalil Mack in, and Tuli like ever since was like not like he was already there, but he emerged as again one of the league's premium rushers. So Tuli's role was like slightly diminished, but I think good for him because with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack injury, like he was still playing a ton, but was not necessarily like considered the starter, quote unquote. But he learned from one of the best guys in the business, and his progress is really, really nice. Like, is he a great player? Yeah. Do I smell an elite guy in his future? No. But I think like he could be one of the best twos out there in the league, and he might even be like a low-end one in the future. Like from this school, and once again, I really feel like Joey Bosa with a full workload for Khalil Mack and Tuli Tuipulotu, he would fit absolutely in there. Tuli, we want you to play 40, 45 snaps a game. Khalil, we want you to play 35. Joey, 15. That freaking works, man. So I would not be shocked if Joey is here. If not here, I would expect him to go to his brother or hang up his cleats. We will see how that ends up. Like when this video goes out there to you guys, you will already know, but trust me, I don't. Like I am as honest as I'm just an honest guy and telling you how the things are. There will be a video for every division, just to give you guys some heads up how this series is going to continue. So we will finish at around like the end of March, slightly before the end of March. The series will finish with Philadelphia Eagles, and pretty much from that day before the draft, we will do 8 videos recapitulating every division, free agency for the team. We'll use the 6 roster spots and how they were managed to fill it up with the free agency. And also I will predict based on their needs and based on how they addressed it, what they could do in terms of draft. So you have that coming your way just after the series is done with Philadelphia Eagles, like 3 weeks from now. Actually 2 weeks from when this video is out there towards you guys. And then obviously the draft is going to be here, and after the draft we will do very similar things then as after free agency, which would be like either all 42 teams, but probably again into 8 divisions, talking about how each team drafted, in my opinion, giving you guys grades, and how that fits into their current roster. So that's just a heads up that I probably should have made at the start of this video, but you know, like if you want news from me, you better watch thoroughly my videos. So in terms of interior, it was always a huge question mark for the Chargers, and it was a huge question mark in previous season. They were like, they have good pass rushers, but you can just run it down their throat. And what a year for veterans that they brought here it was. Poona Ford, once again, Seattle guy. I should not have him with like Bills hoodie. Like he was not really even good for the Bills. He was freaking excellent for the Chargers. They brought him to be this huge man in the middle that, you know, you want to run at us? Yeah, try to run at Poona. If you are unfamiliar with like some of the famous Poona pictures, I like the one when I think it was after a big stop or a big sack, he just starts to jump around. Some of his immense body mass goes out and starts to juggle around. So I feel like that was funny. And it was in his time with Seattle. And boy, oh boy, was it like super fun to watch Poona play and play towards this level. Like, I'm sure they want him back. I don't think he's going to be cheap. And like, there are a lot of good interior defensive tackles in the draft. So that might diminish his value on the free market. But at the same time, there's just very few really good defensive tackles on the market. So it's like kind of interesting like situation for where Poona is going to sign and for how much. So like the spot check predictions on him are okay. So I cannot learn that because as I'm looking at spot check, he's already signed. He signed for 3 years, 30 million with LA Rams. Interesting. I think that's a little bit cheaper that he should allow Rams. And also, I'm not super happy that he signed within division. So Poona, if you are watching this, not really, you have not made me happy. And I'm also like, this is weird that they were not able to bring him back for this price. I feel like they definitely should have. So that's weird. But the good stories did not end there because they found another really like tone setter for this interior in Tier Tart. He's a guy that had some off-field mishaps that kind of allowed him to be snatched for very cheap. When he plays, he's really good. Can he stay out of trouble and put it only on field? Let's hope so. So yet another guy they will lose in free agency, and you say the same thing about Morgan Fox. Not necessarily as good as Poona Ford or TLTR, but definitely useful player. So from a huge problem before the season, with how the Poona Ford especially played, they were able to hold on in terms of interior of the defensive line. But Dupree, Otito, Ogbonia, really guys that should not be getting as much snaps as they did. I feel like they will need a better depth than this. In terms of their linebackers, we already talked about Junior Colson, who unfortunately was not able to really play as much as he would like, and when he played, it was not good. But what a story, what a year it was for Dan Henley. They've drafted him a year ago in the 3rd round, and in his first year, he had some occasional splashes, he played some games and didn't look back. But he just arrived this season. He managed to get a full workload, and he did not look lost in any situations for what you want from your linebacker. So definitely a guy that I might even be too hard on, not really putting him into good starter category. But what a revelation he was. And they really needed him with Junior Colson struggling with injuries and even his on-plate stuff. And Denzel Perriman, he is a solid player. Unfortunately, he could not stay healthy either. So like how happy you are that Dan Henley was able to stay healthy as he did. And overall, this room with Henley and Colson, like, it doesn't look great, but like when we always say, like the average room has like one experienced veteran that's probably like a good starter and one uprising young linebacker. Like here, I would take this room over that. Like I really like the potential of Henley and Coulson together next season, but in terms of their floor, in terms of where they are, in terms of their grades right now, I cannot necessarily rank them that high. Though with Henley, I might redo his rank over the summer review. And now let's go towards like the best part of this secondary that we have not yet talked about, and that's their safety room. And it's really a tale of two players. It's Derwin James and it's Elijah Molden. So we start with Elijah Molden because this is a guy that was playing for the Titans and really underperformed for them. That's why he was available, I think, for free to come here for the Chargers, even with like still being on a rookie contract. And here they were like, okay, with Elijah Molden, he looks nice. And we feel like Derwin James could really benefit from not necessarily put him into some kind of box. And I don't mean like a box, because he's good in the box, but I mean, let's not make him a player that necessarily has to have a concrete position. Let's make him our version of Kyle Hamilton, because obviously Baltimore Chargers connection is huge. Jesse Minter, defensive coordinator for the Chargers, worked with Mike Mack at Michigan, so Mike Mack's system, how much is it also Jesse Minter's system, remains to be seen. But it was clear, like, we can use someone like Kyle Hamilton. Like, I mean, who cannot? I mean, some teams perhaps don't, but like, this is a guy that you, like, really, you want him around the ball, and you kind of want him to be free to kind of choose whatever he feels like is doing. Like, you obviously need to manage that, but really let his instincts shine, let his athleticism shine. And that's Derwin James as well. And pretty much ever since Elijah Molden was really introduced into the lineup, which was like from week 4, like too much. Yeah, I mean, he played some, but pretty much from week 4, he was managing like a full workload. They shift Derwin towards this position much more. And he played, just to give you guys a complete picture on this one, he played 105 snaps as a D lineman, 305 snaps in the box, 385 snaps as a slot, 14 snaps as a wide corner, 250 as free safety. He played all over the goddamn field. And he finally looked back. Like Derwin James, you know, in his rookie season, like he came on the scene, burst into the scene, and looked like immediately one of the best safeties out there. One of the most fun, really a guy that play with nasty hits, really bump and run, being around the ball, able to tackle, able to like go for the ball, punch the ball, like, and he was back at this. It was so fun to watch. It's definitely too soon to put him back into an elite starter category, where if I was doing this, I would have him there within his rookie contract. He was really freaking outstanding. And last couple of years, it really wasn't Derwin James. Like, I feel like it wasn't working. And was it his play or was it the system? Ronnie Stanley, you probably fucked up on this one. Sorry kids, if you are watching. Effed up. Derwin James, absolutely freaking thrive under Jesse Minter, and he's definitely on my watch. Not over the summer. I'm pretty certain that he's going to stay as an amazing starter. But for next year, he's on my list. Who can ascend towards being elite? And in terms of Derwin, reascend there, Derwin James. And I'm so freaking happy for him. Oh, he's probably not in the top 10 where Justin is, but a really fun guy to watch and very, very fun to watch. And like, I'm so happy. I'm so freaking happy that we can see him at close to top of his game again. Back to Elijah Molden, like, he is definitely on my summer watch, because like it really feels like decent starter is kind of too low for him. It's like hard for me to like absolutely disregard the tape with the Titans. Like, there's a reason why they let go their third round pick for pretty much nothing, you know, even during his rookie contract. But like what a revelation he was. He was really completing the secondary from the moment he stepped on the field, and I'm surprised because again, I was pretty much certain that they would bring him back, but I'm kind of surprised how cheap they were able to bring him back, because this 3 year, like something like 18 to 19 millions, which is like, wow, that's cheap as fuck. Sorry, it's really cheap to me. I thought he could bank on himself much more, go for like a shorter contract. Like, if I was him, I would definitely want to stay with the Chargers. He kind of choose security over like a top back. I feel like this is an incredible value for the Chargers because I think he's just getting started. Like he's 26, like he was not drafted as like 24, 25-year-old prospect. So his best time of his career is ahead of him. But can you really blame him that he secured, I would say, lifetime worth of money, and he's going to become a free agent again, age 29? Still, most likely in like his in really productive years. Next to these guys, I won't talk about Alohi Gilman as much as he might deserve, because he is a steady presence. It took a couple of years for Alohi Gilman to arrive, but he definitely did last year. And this year, I feel like he showed that it was not a fluke. Like, is he elite? Does he have elite traits? No, but he is just a steady, good present for your safety group. And really, this is one of the most fun groups in the league. And obviously one of the best ones. Now we go towards some of the backups. Marcus May, 1 year veteran signing, really looked nice. Like I did not expect that he would be as good as he was out there. Will he be back on cheap? Because I don't think he's going to have super huge market. He's definitely going to want more than he got this offseason, because it was something ridiculously small. Not ridiculously, but I would say justifiably small. I would say he's probably going to ask for 2 or 3 millions instead of 1.2. But definitely a solid signing. Justin Taylor, one of the guys that are here on rookie contracts, not necessarily outperforming or really grabbing this job and running away with it, but a solid corner 5 for you. At some cases corner 4 that you can live with. Now let's go towards starters in this group. We are to talk about Tarhib, Stillep, Kemhart, and what findings these guys were for them. In terms of Christian Fulton, I really felt like he played very, very good. I expected him to be back with this team, and I don't think he's going to be. As I kind of hate spot track. This is the only day in the year in which I'm pretty much around the draft, but where spot track does not really do their job very well, because a lot of people want to use it, and they are slow because of that. I mean, it's understandably so. Everybody wants to see that. But let me check on Christian Fulton. So they were able to get him for a very cheap contract, kind of 1 year prove-it deal, and I think he proved he is a good player in terms of league. How to put it? Is he a lockdown player? Is he a guy that necessarily fulfilled a top predictions? He struggled his last year in Tennessee. That's why he was available for such cheap price. They've signed him for 1 year, $3 million. He definitely outplayed that in his season with the Chargers, and I would really like him back next to Tarhib, Still, and Kemhart, because consider come on, man. The rest of the secondary being a lot of safeties that free safeties that you are happy with. Suddenly you have 6 pieces that your worst piece is Kemhart, and your best is Derwin James. You have Christian Fulton, Tarhib Steele, Asante Samuel, Elijah Molden. Like, that's a damn good secondary, and Christian Fulton kind of gives that secondary, I would say, good floor. Especially like, are you certain about Cam Hart as your starter? Like, perhaps you go with 2 corners out there, especially in the sets where Derwin James plays as a slot. So you can do that. You can, because of him, you can put Cam Hart out of the field. I don't feel like you necessarily want to stake Derwin James to just one position. So that's like really Cam Hart, I think, is going to play. Is going to be like this quasi-starter in case you are able to bring someone like Christian Fulton into this room. So as of right now, he's not signed. I think they will like to bring him back. I believe they should. We will see how that works out. But with that being said, we finished the whole conversation about 2024. It was a fun year for the Chargers, but before we go and talk about this franchise as a whole, let's hand out some rewards. We start with a draft hit, and you can say I should have gone for Joey Alt, but I feel like Ladd McConkey was a bigger hit in terms of how I perceived him compared to where he's at right now. Like, he has ridiculous jump. Again, like, I effed up. He should have been a decent starter to begin with, but what a jump, what a clear wide receiver 1 for this team. And I don't think there is it's certainty that that's where he stops. Like, I think he can really deliver towards being one of the top 7 guys in the league. Like, I think it's in him. I don't think that he is limited physically enough. Like, there are some physical limitations with him. He's not the speediest guy, he's not the biggest guy, but he gets it. He has sure freaking hands, and he has that potential in him, at least in my opinion. In terms of draft blunder, it kind of had to go to Junior Colson because, well, I really like him. I feel like this will be a seamless transition. And like we said, there is a lot of injuries. I'm not worried about Junior Colson, but in terms of how he played when he got the opportunity, it was not great. So, in terms of year 1 contribution, which is pretty much how this award is, what this award is all about, he had to get it. In terms of the cornerstone of this franchise, I could have gone for Justin Herbert, but I feel like Rashawn Slater had a better year, is a better player in respect for his position. I would say he's slightly better left tackle than Justin Herbert is a QB. So he's the 3rd or 4th best left tackle, and like I said, I have Justin between 5 and 8. So what a player he is. The question is only how much. How much is it going to take for Chargers to bring him back to be their left tackle for yet another 5 years? Because do this freaking monster. In terms of unsung hero, I've enjoyed handing this one. So happy for Puna Ford. Less happy right now when I've realized that we are going to face him twice a year, especially with our interior O-line and us not having QB, and the QB does not have anyone to throw a ball. Okay, enough talk about Seahawks. No Gino, no DK, no interior, no Teller. What's going on? We probably have a plan, I hope. But let's back to Puna. Unsung hero from what was supposed to be a huge problem for this team in terms of this defensive line, really people being able to run at them, and it was dude, you want to win in the trenches, and it really didn't seem like you have great D tackles. They have one, or had one, in Puna Ford. What a player he was for them. In terms of flop, I hated to do so. I hated to do so. I think Joey Bosa is Hall of Famer, is just absolute talent, but unfortunately, the amount of injuries just impacts him way too much for him, compared to what you perceived him to be, compared to what they were paying him. Unfortunately, he was the one that did not deliver the most compared to expectations, compared to payment. So while I think he's still a great player, future Hall of Famer. Like, again, how this award or negative award is thought of in my head, it had to go to Joey Bosa. Now we take a look at the state of this franchise. In terms of Jim Harbaugh, I think you have an A coach towards A+. He might be heading there. Like, what he is missing to me, like, he is not necessarily like offensive or defensive guru. He's much more of this tone setter. So it's like similar to like Dan Campbell or his brother, which means that you will always have to find yourself great coordinators to work next to, because you are not going to be really the guy that can like overshadow this offense or defense. And especially with Jesse Minder, I think next year he's gone. But with the amount of freaking connection this Harbaugh and like this almost like mafia, and like I mean it in really, I mean it's mafia, like I said mafia, but like there is a tree of that they root from anywhere to everywhere. Like the amount of connection these guys have, they know about everything, about every upcoming coach. So it's much less of a problem for a guy like Jim Harbaugh to really find himself a great coordinators to work with and next to him. In terms of how 2024 went for them, I went with A. I feel like towards an A+, it would require them to win a playoff game and Justin Herbert not laying an egg in this one. But pretty much every other thing just really went right for them. And from really wiggly ship that, you know, was kind of a laughing stock all around the league because they were always full team of promise that became full of you know what? I don't think they are that anymore, and year one went as good as expected. In terms of QB, I think you are paying almost the top QB, really great money. I think he's definitely a guy that absolutely deserves to be paid those money. He delivers on them, so I think there's a plus. He's just not an elite, otherwise this would be a free pluses. In terms of hot seat, there is no reason why Jim Harbaugh should be leaving unless there will be some scandal. So perhaps because of that and some of his slightly controversial past, you could say it should have been too. But yeah, in terms of finances, it was like, should this be less than that? Because, well, while they are sitting on 90 millions in terms of free cap space, it also means they have a lot of guys unsigned. But when I looked at it, it's not as much of the guys that would be like super expensive. And also with the great draft that they have this year, the fact is that they have so many super valuable guys on super cheap contracts for positions that would require a shit ton of money. So, you know, the best tackles could go for 30 million a year. You have one of the best duos out there that costs you 25 a year, like for next season. You have a guy that, if Vlad McConkey was a free agent, he would fetch 25 million. You are paying him 1.5 or like 2 million, something like that. You have potentially franchise corners. Again, like those guys on the market would definitely go like around 10, especially in Tarhip Steele's case. So with that, with the money, like really being able to spend on positions, on guys that they really need to, they got rid of so much dead cap last year. I feel like this is one of the sweetest situations in terms of finances. What's the strength of this team? No, it's not me either. It's youth. Like they have so many freaking guys that are already pillars of this team, but they are not old. Like Justin Herbert will be 27. The same for Rashawn Slater. Joey Alt is 22. Then we go for Tui. Tui is 23, right? Derwin James, he feels like he's been out there, like he is going to be 29, right? Tarhip Steele, 23. Like there is so many young guys on this roster. They really did. Like Jim Harbaugh came, it was like experienced guys out of the door, youth guys in. I will give you a chance, and they hit on so many those great guys. Elijah Molden, like. You are not talking about Elijah Molden in terms of like a draft, but like he was being brought, or even like a free agency. Like he's just an incredible find. So really, I feel like youth is the name of the game for the Chargers, and obviously Jim Harbaugh, working such a long time in terms of college, is going to be really good in elevating these guys. In terms of division, I was thinking and really comparing this, how I view this from the Broncos perspective and from the Chargers, and I really feel like Chargers are a step above Broncos. I feel like Broncos had a really good year, but I feel like Chargers are a step above them. So when I see this from the perspective of Chargers, you obviously have Kansas, yeah, that sucks. You have Broncos, who are like really franchised in a sense, and with Pete Carroll coming to Raiders, I really feel like that team with and I'm really because I've made all of this before free agency started, so it's the same for all of these teams. So I don't count Geno Smith here. I'm not counting anything from that. So it's not about Geno Smith. But even prior, I feel like Raiders, with how their team is built upon, they're like sneaky interesting team with especially the way they were able to draft last season and how the offensive line is sneaky good. Defensive line has Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins hopefully healthy. Suddenly, I think they will have a coach that is actually going to able to put some culture in that room, put some fire up to these guys' asses, but also able to coach them, not to take this as a sling towards Antonio Pierce. I think he did a tremendous job for what the Raiders needed, but right now I feel like Pete Carroll is exactly what they need, and I definitely think they can win. They can be like that really tough to beat team. So from that perspective, it's not an easy division, though. I really feel like if you are Chargers and you have Broncos, or if you are Broncos and you have Chargers, it's a different situation and it's better for the Chargers. With that being said, now let's shift towards how I predict this team to look in 2025. So in terms of O-line, I really feel like they will draft a guard and probably figure out their center via free agency. But it's clear, Slater, Johnson, and Alt are clear. I feel like Jay Pipkins will start. I'm actually pretty adamant on that one, unless the guard that they bring, whether it's free agency or draft, I would suspect the draft here is going to be super great in terms of camp, that he just takes Pipkins' job. Could happen. Justin Herbert, obviously, that's the guy. In terms of playmakers, I feel like they will try to upgrade on their tight end room, especially if they still want to run the goddamn football. So they will want to upgrade and have two great tight ends. Next to obviously, I will expect them to go for Loveland. The question is he going to be on board? And the same will go with the running backs, the fact that they released Gus the Bus, even for as cheap as he was, in my opinion. It really signals we were not happy with how we were able to run the ball. We will improve upon that by drafting great guys in this insane class, or you will bring someone through free agency, though there is not necessarily Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry like they were last season. Teams kind of learned that letting go of great running backs is not the smartest option. In terms of wide receivers, I'm not sure they will bring Joshua Palmer back. And with Quentin Johnston, I was really hesitant to put him as my 2. So there's question there. But can I imagine Quentin Johnston being put as 2, Joshua Palmer as 3, and especially when they would much more commit towards being in 12 personnel with yet another great tight end in the room. That probably is wide receiver room that you are absolutely okay with. In terms of backups, I feel like Easton Stick is a guy that you want back. He showed 2 years in a row that when Justin Herbert goes down, he can get in and play solid football. Is he anything he to me is very similar to Jake Browning for the Bengals. Really a guy that he gets it, he understands what his role is, and he's absolutely limited in terms of his upside, but the fact that you have him in the room and you have a guy that can go down for one game or two, and you can turn towards Easton or Jake for cheap, because they are cheap. They are not necessarily like those Marcus Mariottas of the world, guys that are former starters, that are experienced veterans that you kind of have to pay a hefty amount of money. So for that, I think Easton Stick is an absolute bargain to bring back. How much he could be worth? Let me check on this one, because he is not signed for next year, but I do expect them to try to bring him back. As you can see, I was not lying. I had Gus Edwards as a backup running back. He's gone, so there should be really a question mark. When I was saying like their financial situation is really good, it also means like they have guys to they need to occupy the positions there. Why I do have Dan Henley here? That's a mistake on my part, sorry guys. But it's more for the backup spots that are not going to be super pricey, right? Now let's shift towards defense. And like I said, I did not expect them to be able to bring Khalil Mack back. I felt like he might retire. He's back, so that edge room is the D-line is complete, or would be complete if they were able to bring Puna Ford and Tier Tart back, which I absolutely expected that they would like to. I felt like Harbaugh would absolutely love to have these guys back, and I'm kind of shocked, especially with how much Puna Ford was signed for with the Rams, that this is not something that Chargers matched. So I'm shocked by this. We will see if they will bring Tier Tart back, because I really predicted that they were such a nice fit for what Chargers want to do, that they will do like almost anything in their power to bring them back. So I'm kind of shocked that they were not able to bring Puna. So again, like this seems like I have whiffed on some of the picks here, but yeah, that happens. It's hard to predict a guy going to one of the 32 teams. Obviously, with guys that are getting re-signed, it's much more likely to go to the Chargers. But yeah, it did not happen. In Tuli, yeah, he's definitely a great edge too. Dan Henley, he's going to be a starter. I don't have Junior Colson here as a clear-cut starter, because I'm not sure how they will feel about his injuries, whether they will not bring like a veteran linebacker as an assurance policy and start with him. And this is like pretty much how I'm predicting them to start the season. But if this was like envision week 16 and nobody is down, I would have Junior Colson here. In terms of secondary, yeah, they feel like they could be really complete there. The only guy that is not signed from this is Asante Samuel. So he went down pretty early in the year, had bad season on his resume up to that point, but I feel like he showed enough in previous season that he is very good in what he does, and I did expect them to bring him back. What is going on? Yeah, here it is. So, yeah, he was obviously their draft selection 4 years ago. Will they be able to do so? I think he would round this group up really nicely when they were unable, or like it's either him or Christian Fulton that I would like to see back with this team. Will it happen? I kind of bet on Asante Samuel. I don't think they would brought both of them guys back, because I feel like Cam Hart is good enough to be at least in the picture here, and like you don't want to like really suppress his development that much, because like if you would bring both Asante Samuel and Christian Fulton, then his chances to play are actually very limited. In terms of backups, I have Junior Colson, I have Justin Taylor here. Other guys, it's really a question whether they will address it with draft or with free agency remains to be seen. But like when even like Puna Ford and Tiertart, like that's calculated guesswork. Here it would be really not calculating guesswork, so I'm not going to do that. With that being said, we finished this episode with the Chargers. I really enjoyed this one. It feels like such a breath of fresh air that's happening with the Chargers. They are on the right direction. Now it's obviously a huge offseason for them. Like they have 90 million, well, as we talked, probably around like 65 because of Kyler Mack and Elijah Molden being resigned. But they have still a lot of money. They have decent draft capital, not necessarily something special, but they have extra fifth, 2 extra sixth, extra seven, and they have such a great draft to build upon. They have their franchise QB. There is a lot to like about where LA Chargers are. Very, very big offseason ahead of them. And if they nail it the similar way they nailed last offseason and special draft, they could be, dare I say, Super Bowl contenders? Perhaps. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, if you are here, please leave a like, leave a comment. Tell me how you appreciate the next schedule is going to be. How do you feel about me, like, you know, despite the schedule, really keeping it honest with you guys, not trying to like improve myself, looking smarter than I am. Like, let me know down. Thank you. Bye bye.